Will we go above our normal energetic set point for a little bit? Very possible. But we will do our own inner work in real time to make sure that we both de-escalate the situation. But you can't de-escalate the situation together until you practice de-escalating it on your own.
If you're aiming at the highest possible good, you always are looking for the better solution. There's a better way. There may not be a right and a wrong way, but there is a better way. And if you hold that belief, which you and I obviously do, even before we knew that, and that's why sometimes you'll say, just trust me, because you can't explain how you know what you know. And I'll say the same thing. That's what I did earlier. It's like, you got to trust me on this.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Alan was taking a big drink of his drink, and I wanted to make him laugh and spit it all over the place. I'm in a very goofy mood. We'll get into that. Next Level University, we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Let me finish the freaking intro. Today, for episode number 1895, it's appropriate. Today, we're going to talk about how to effectively have a disagreement. I don't mean that in a condescending way of you don't know how to have a disagreement. I'm not saying that. I have been working with this chungus across the screen from me for the last, we started in, I don't know, when did we start working together? You remember?
I disagree.
You can. You're entitled to that.
I don't know.
We'll say 2018.
No, 2017.
I know, but we weren't working together like we're working together now.
Yeah, we were. We were doing the Conversations Change Lives meets Hyperconscious podcast. The longest and worst podcast title in history. I'm proud of that.
You're proud of that? So it's been 7.5 years.
We'll round up. We'll call it 8.
8 years. Okay, I've been working with you for 8 years. How many disagreements have we had over the last 8 years?
None. I'm in a giggly mood too. I'm kidding.
We had one today. We had one not 7 hours ago.
Kev texts me, "Hey man, I'm gonna try this thing," and I'm like, "Oh no, not again."
You said it. He said hard no.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that's gonna be.
I get a little fired up. I get a little fired up.
I shouldn't have said hard no.
That's gonna be a hard no, Kev.
I didn't say it like that.
Take a look.
Take a little behind the scenes.
Yeah, let's take a little look real quick.
All right, you narrate. You do it, because
I sent him a message. He said, "Gotta be a hard no on that." I know you. I know you know that. That's what he said.
Standardize on blank. Yeah,
it's gotta be a hard no. I know you know that.
And then I went into the reasons.
Yeah, you did.
You know,
but I can't say it because I know. I don't want to reveal anything. But I think you and I, we are in a giggly mood because it's late and it's been a long day and we're batching.
That is worse than I thought.
Yeah. I got triggered
must have
for
been
sure.
Tough.
I had a text chambered ready to come back. Let's say, then you're gonna have to create the freaking thing yourself. That you better create it because I don't know what I'm doing. You and I I think we've had many disagreements. Not serious, right? I have an idea.
It's only
you
been
have an idea.
one that was really bad.
Yes. Yeah.
That was it. That was bad.
Yeah, I was in a book, and Alan wasn't in a book, and we had an art. Was that the one?
No, I was thinking of
the Dreamliner?
In Florida. Oh, yeah, that was a tough one, too.
Florida?
Yeah, before we went and did yoga, or...
Oh, yeah, that was a bad one.
That was a bad one. That one was the worst.
Goodness.
Okay.
I would say that one was the worst, yeah.
So to provide some context to anyone who wasn't there...
Which is none of you.
None
of you were there.
What is the common denominator of all of the... We have handled... I coach relationships with Emilia. I've been doing it for 4 years. It is not the relationships that don't have conflict that I would bet on anymore. It's the relationships that handle conflict in a healthy way that I would bet on. The relationships that have no conflict whatsoever, I wouldn't bet on them. There's a spectrum. Okay, so on one far left, my left hand, it's late. Far left hand, it's people who, they have tons of conflict all the time. They fight constantly, and it's a roller coaster. Okay, on the far right are people who have no conflict ever whatsoever. The people on the far left, and again, this is an overgeneralization, tend to have a roller coaster of a relationship, but there's a lot of polarity, so there's usually a lot of sexual passion. On the far right, they're best friends and they never fight, but there's usually not a lot of sexual intimacy, from what I've observed. What I hope everyone has or aspires to is somewhere in the middle where you handle conflict and polarity in a way that is healthy and constructive, to where you maintain your uniqueness and therefore have polarity and passion. Because if you become the same person, we've all met those individuals who get in a relationship and they just become each other and they lose the passion, the polarity. And you can study this. This is not a me thing. This is a thing. And so how are we handling conflict in a constructive way? I would bet on the couple or the business partnership that is unique and they have complementary skill sets, but they have similar core values, core aspirations, and core beliefs. Kev, what exactly are you laughing
All
at?
I could think of that whole time was, how do you think our sex life has been recently? That's all I could think of when you were talking about it.
Kev, I'm going to need you to get it together. It is funny, though.
It's 7:12. And again, I know we're not saying this. We're very privileged in the fact that we get to do this, and I'm having a blast. And there is a little part of me that loves being giggly and tired at the end of the day and recording episodes because it's always so fun.
You've been up since 6, so when did you lose it?
Right when I logged on here. I was good to Alan was running a little behind because he had to let the pets out, and I texted him and I said, I got something for your ass. You better come correct.
Wait, can I share what you really texted
Yeah,
me?
you can say it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, I kid you not. And
It was friendly,
again,
though, just remember.
Yeah, of course. Super friendly. And for anyone who
With
has
children.
children listening,
Yeah, don't let them.
earmuffs.
Earmuffs.
All right. He texted me today at 6 o'clock p.m. 6 o'clock on the dot. I got something for your bitch ass. And I said, be right there. Got to take the pets out. And he said, oh, for fuck's sake. And I put a laughy face on it. And again, we have fun. We do have fun. I don't know what business partners talk like that to each other, so maybe we shouldn't be doing this episode, but no. Go ahead.
I think we have something special. And I think I genuinely always want to get to the right answer. I don't have to be right. You don't have to be right. I think that really is one of the reasons why today I was frustrated with Alan. And when Alan logged on, I was like, man, sometimes it feels like we have to make our life harder now, even though it's already freaking hard. Like, why do we just always have to make it harder? And he's like, dude, I know. It sucks. And I said, but I understand. I said, you're a pain in the ass right now. And I said, but I also understand that I'm a pain in the ass to you right now too. Because I want us to go in a direction and you want us to go in another direction and you're more optimal than I am. So I'm good with that. And then I moved about my day with that assumption and tried to figure out how to make that happen. But I think that's what we've always done is the biggest fight we've ever had. We were in Florida and we did an interview and we got out of the interview. And I think, Alan, you said something like, Kev, you were a little quiet in that interview or something. I think that's how it started.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm trying not to lose the freaking room. And you were like, what do you mean? And I was like, dude, you were like way over, man. Like, you were swearing a bunch. You were just broing out. And I was trying to make sure that we stayed in a good place. And he's like, I don't think so, man. I think I swore less than you think. And I said, I know you swore more than you think. Mm-hmm. And then we had an argument. We both bawled our eyes out on the ride over to do this freaking yoga. Like, what are we doing here? So I'm just laying in a dark room on the other side of the room from Alan, just thinking about how I hate him. And then after we were like, yeah, man, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And then we drove to 5. If you've heard us talk about the drive to 5, it's everything. It's
everything.
Confidence, it's self-worth, it's it's essentially two ends of anything.
Yeah, two extremes that are too extreme that are not optimal.
Yeah. I think we always try to meet in the middle. The middle's not always the middle though.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I'm at a 1 and Alan's at a 7, so I have to drive further to get to 5. Alan's going to go down 2. I got to go up 4.
Yeah.
Or 3, whatever it was. I think that's in this episode, my goal, and I said this to Alan, I said, I feel like you and I are really good at this. I think Tara and I are really good at this. I'm sure you and Emilia are really good at this.
Definitely. Her better than me, for sure.
I'd like to leave this episode with a couple tactics for anybody watching or listening on how to improve your disagreements.
Okay. First, we have to discuss what an optimal stopping problem is. Because I told Kev one time way back, I said, dude, I'm never fully right, but I'm definitely not fully wrong. And what I mean by that is there's a percent error. And as I've matured over the years, I am improving my percent error.
Mm.
And so, for example, when I say gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, there's no error. That's exact. But in life, what direction we take in business is up for subjectivity. I don't know the exact right answer. I just believe that I'm more optimal than Kev, meaning my choice has a higher statistical probability of success than his long term. But we won't know that until 10 years, so hopefully you have to trust me. And I don't know what my brain is calculating sometimes, so I don't know how to explain it. So an optimal stopping problem, there's a book called Algorithms to Live By. And I recommended it to Kev. Shout out to Tom. He recommended it to me. He's a physics guy. And he's like, you're going to love this book. It's a computer science approach to life. It was awesome. Love it. Algorithms to Live By. You can look it up. Big fan. And it talks about how when you're going to a concert, when do you park? The closer you get to the venue, the lower the probability is there's a spot. But you also want to minimize the amount that you have to walk, because then you're going to get stuck in traffic on the way out or whatever. So when do you park? And there's an actual mathematical equation that when you should park, and it's 34% or whatever. It's a whole algorithm. It's a formula. So I always say the optimal stopping problem, I think nachos is the best example. You put them in for a minute, the cheese isn't melted and they taste like shit. You put them in for 2 minutes, they're burnt, and they taste terrible. You put them in, the optimal stopping problem is a minute and a half. So perfect cheese, melted, love it.
Fine dining over at the Lazarus residence.
You know it, man. The air fryer. you know you have to burn stuff to find the optimal amount of time, depending on what you're cooking. We've been doing fries, broccoli, chicken nuggets, different things. What?
Oh, gosh. Just that's what you come with. Fries, broccoli, and chicken nuggets? What are we doing?
You know it, man. I love brock in the air fryer, too.
I'm not laughing about that. I'm laughing about the chicken nuggets, just the combination of the three.
You ever have Impossible chicken nuggets?
Never.
It's non-meat chicken nuggets. They're bomb. You would never know.
I'm all for it. I don't
Great
like
micros.
I don't like chicken nuggets. I don't like chicken. Any fake chicken, I'm not into it.
Fair. Okay, so back to the point. There's a percent error. You put the nachos in, and if you're off, they're going to be burnt or the cheese isn't going to be melted. That's what every decision in life is. And before I stress anyone out, what is the optimal length of a podcast episode? No one actually knows. You have to go based on the past. So when you get in a conflict with someone, it's a goal in conflict, it's a core value in conflict, or it's a core belief in conflict. So Kev believes we should do X, I believe we should do Y, maybe we should do XY or YX. And that's really, as long as you're vulnerable and honest and humble in that process, you can almost always find a better solution. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Meaning Kevin has his perspective, I have my perspective, and then hopefully we can come to a better conclusion together than we would without each other. And that's what a healthy rumble or a discord is.
Remember, have you ever seen The Outsiders? Didn't they have rumbles in The Outsiders?
Yeah, with knives and such.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think so. Was it Johnny Boy? Pony Boy?
Pony Boy. Yeah.
Shout out to Pony Boy. Shout out.
What the hell made you think of that?
Rumble. You said Rumble.
Oh.
Every time I hear Rumble, I think about that. That was like I think I did like books when I was younger, and that was one of them, of course.
I think of Brene Brown. She talks about Rumble.
You and I are
Rumble
different
is
people.
you have a vulnerable argument, And then you get to that's exactly what she's talking about. Handling conflict in
Yeah.
a positive way and being a good, empathetic, vulnerable leader is critical to any success in a relationship or in business.
Well, I think humility, you said humble. I think humility is such an important piece of it, because if you go into an argument, if you go into a disagreement, if you go into a conversation with the intention of being right and you hang on to that, if that's your anchor point, if your anchor point is I need to be right, it's most likely not going to be constructive.
Well, no matter what, the other person is going to feel unseen, undervalued, not appreciated. My goal is never to be right. My goal is to figure out what is best for the listener, or what is best for the team, or what is best for the... If you're aiming at the highest possible good, you always are looking for the better solution. There's a better way. There may not be a right and a wrong way, but there is a better way. And if you hold that belief, which you and I obviously do, even before we knew that.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes you'll say, just trust me. Because you can't explain how you know what you know. And I'll say the same thing. That's what I did earlier. Is like, you got to trust me on this. And luckily I have enough of a track record where you can actually trust that.
Well, Christina asked me, because I messaged Christina and said, hey, can you help me with this? I'm trying to create something. Can you help me? And she said, can you give me context to why Alan wants to do it this way? And I said, it's just an Alanism. It's one of those things. He said, he can't explain it. She was like, all right, cool, thank you. I was like, yep, that's that.
I appreciate it. I hopefully have built enough credibility to where that's the case. But what this is using Google Sheets versus something else. And our entire app is built on Glide, which is base Google Sheets. And so when we do create software to optimize individuals, businesses, and teams in the future, it'll be because we built these tools on our own.
Yeah.
Which,
well, context is important.
Yeah.
What else? What do you think? What else? I don't want to talk. I don't want to make it all about us, but I do think you and I are good at this.
Agreed.
I want to own that, because we've had a lot of people, and very successful people, very sexy people, no, very successful people, tell us that having a business partner was dumb. Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there.
There's a company called Y Combinator. I applied. I had a company early on called Campus Libre. It was a campus-specific Craigslist for textbooks. I remember showing up to a Halloween party. Kevin was a genie, a jacked genie with a muscle shirt. And he said, I don't know what Campus Libre is, but I like it. That was way back. That was a wild night.
Mm.
But anyways, so Campus Libre we had done very well in some business competitions, blah, blah, blah. It was a campus-specific Craigslist for textbooks, and we applied to something called Y Combinator. Y Combinator is what's referred to as an incubator program, and an incubator program is essentially, hey, we have capital and we have experience. It's like a Shark Tank, but less...
Sharky?
Yeah, less toxic. I'm kidding. Less sharky. At Y Combinator, my point is they actually don't invest in companies that don't have business partnerships, because they believe that one leader, if they're not humble enough to work with other chief officers or co-founders, they don't believe that the company will succeed. Because I think, and I never really understood this, but I'm telling you, some of the most humble people you know don't seem humble on the outside. So, but you can't really be super successful without humility. It's like this, I mean, you can, but in very narrow areas. And in a company, you really do have to. I showed up to a meeting with our director of Next Level Podcast Solutions this week, and I remember thinking before the meeting, I'm just going to show up with questions. I'm not going to show up and, oh, here's what we need to do. I'm going to show up and ask, how it's going and why it's going that way and what do you think needs to change? I mean, the whole time was basically me asking questions. And I'm just gathering data. And then once I get the data and I get her perspective, now I get your perspective, now I can synthesize that and then figure out where I think we need to go. And so if you ever, and this is what I say, if I ever have to play the CEO card, that's when you should take it away.
Interesting. I've never heard you say that once.
I don't say certain things I'm afraid to say. I say that in my head all the time.
You've been saving all this hot fire behind
I
the
have said
scenes?
that on business podcasts. It's just not usually relevant here.
It'll be
But
good for
I think leadership...
good for your business partner to know. You know, giving it to the people out there. I have no idea.
But isn't that fascinating? I've never said
Yes.
once. Imagine if I said, "Oh, because I'm the CEO." That means I shouldn't. That means I don't have a good reason. Just because you're the guy? Like, that's a terrible reason to go in that direction.
Yeah.
That's an arrogant thing to say, I think.
All right, what else? So humility. Trying to get same team. You and I are in the same. We are on the same team, and we have the same core aspirations. It
Yeah.
does not matter what fuel we use to get there. It doesn't necessarily matter what route we take to get there. We want to get there, and we want to make sure that we don't die on the way. So I think that's the core aspiration of getting to a place. In a relationship, Taryn and I will say same team. Same team.
Nice.
Same team. If something happens and something falls over in the fridge and it becomes a giant mess and it's a pain in the ass and we're cleaning the fridge on a Saturday, again, far worse problems to have in the world. But yes, this sucks. And yes, we're both going to be frustrated, but we're same team. Not the end of the world. We're going to be fine. I'll make it fun.
I've never realized this. Sorry, it's been a long day. And I have stuff in my throat. I never realized this until now, at least not consciously. You have to care about the vision more than the moment, but you have to care about the person more than the moment. So it's like you have to care about the vision more than the person in a way, but you have to care about the person more than the conflict. So I tell Emilia all the time, I don't want to get to the top of this mountain not in love. So you have to care about what you're building. I have to care about NLU and the mission more than Kevin's feelings in the moment. But I better care about Kevin's feelings in the moment more than whatever that little conflict is, that little thing. So it's almost like I care about the mission ultimately on the macro, but on the micro, I care about Kevin more than whatever mistake it was. Or I think that's really powerful.
So mission, and again, it doesn't matter if we're not talking about it in a business realm. The mission of a relationship is to succeed. So same thing. That's the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And then person is greater than the circumstance.
Mistake. Yeah, that. Nice.
Circumstance.
Remember that couple that you said you knew?
Yeah.
That, I think what you picked up on is that he cares more about the fun of making fun of her in that moment than he does about her.
Which anytime I see disrespect, it's like, you can't disrespect somebody you love. It's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable relationship.
No, it's not.
It's not a sustainable relationship.
I remember one time Emilia asked me her opinion about a couch, and she was asking her mom, and her mom does interior design unbelievably well, and I said, just buy the thing. And I was disrespectful. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what the hell that was about. If you want to ask your mom, you go ask your mom. I'm not Mr.
Coach guy.
Know-it-all, man. And you got to catch when you're disrespectful. You got to catch
there's
it
degrees. Now, some people, that's not disrespectful at all.
That was the most disrespectful I maybe have ever been to her, honestly.
Well, that's because you have very high standards. Same, you and I. Same, me and Taryn. Dude, we talked about this recently. There are certain things you can't put back in the box. The reason I knew, for context, I was with Tara and I were with a couple one time, and we were hiking, and it was a husband and a wife, and the wife fell in the water, and the husband did not even ask her if she was okay. We were walking across a log, and she slipped and fell, and he literally didn't even ask her if he was okay. He said, "Make sure you don't get the backpack wet, because the backpack has stuff in it." I was like, that's that.
You
That's
care
everything.
more about the backpack than your own wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, I immediately lost a ton of respect for him. And we were like pretty buddy up until that point. It was like, that's that. I don't want to spend time with you. I don't trust your character anymore. You've broken trust.
That's the greatest indicator that a relationship will not succeed long term is probably disrespect.
I would say so.
It's an energy. It's like it's an entitlement. It's a lack of gratitude and appreciation. We had someone we were working.
It's a lack of admiration.
Yeah.
You can't admire someone and disrespect them. I don't think you can have those two at the same. You know what I mean? If I admire you,
unconscious. Yeah.
Yeah. If I admire you, I don't know. You can't disrespect someone. You can. I mean, I'm not saying you can't physically do it, but I don't think that's one easy way to lose trust for sure. You can't put that back.
With that couple, what's probably going to happen or already has happened is...
It already happened.
It already happened.
Okay, yeah, they broke up. They broke up.
Yeah. Total shocker. Good. What happened probably is the woman eventually was probably like, screw you. Because here's the deal. The moment she increases her self-worth, she's going to stop tolerating that.
Yep.
And that's why self-worth is so powerful. I think self-worth is more powerful in relationships. I think self-belief is more powerful in achievement. I was good at the achievement part. I wasn't good at the relationship part until way later.
This is something else I would add to the through line of the conversation. When you have a disagreement, this is just my belief, and this is my thought process when I'm having a disagreement with someone. You have to be as okay with being wrong as you are not rubbing it in somebody's face when you're right.
Yeah.
Because it's not, if you can't lose it when you're wrong, just like you can't say, Alan, I told you, obviously. How did you not know that? It's almost like, I think the ultimate goal of a disagreement is to set the framework for the next one. You're literally building trust on, hey, the next time this happens, we know what to do. And we have our system, we know what to do. I'm not going to overreact, you're not going to overreact. Will we get triggered? Sure. Will we go above our normal energetic set point for a little bit? Very possible. Very possible. But we will do our own inner work in real time to make sure that we both are lowering, what's the opposite of, not dissipating, when you lower the, come on, you know words.
Threshold?
No, what's to lower? De-escalate the situation. De-escalate. Nice. Escalator. I should have said that. That would have been a dead giveaway. But you can't de-escalate the situation together until you practice de-escalating it on your own.
This all comes down to emotional intelligence. Emotional maturity, emotional regulation, emotional intelligence. Inside Out 1 and 2 are perfect films for this. It's who, when you're anxious and overwhelmed and under pressure and you need results, it's very quick. It's very easy to put the results over your relationship. I told Emilia this week, we're going away next week. This week's heavy. 13 podcast coaching training today, 13. It's going to be, I think, 10 because we're going to do 6. Now we're doing 3.
Lower the standard.
Yeah, we're spreading. Not long term, but yes, today. But it's been a heavy week. And so I said in advance, this is going to be heavy. I'm going to need some grace so that she understands how she can support doing different things around the house that normally I would do. And she's grateful because she's grateful we're going away. And being on the same team, staying on the same team needs to matter more than the moment. And that's really hard when stakes are high. When stakes are high, that's why people say finances. Like, if you look up the reasons couples break up, the reasons on the surface is finances, sex, whatever the other ones are. I don't know. I know those two are big. But really underneath that iceberg is lack of emotional regulation, lack of emotional intelligence, lack of ability to take a minute and de-escalate the situation. Emilia is the reason we haven't fought. So we've gone 5 years without a single fight. No storming out, no slamming doors, literally not once. And there have been times where I was escalating. My decibel level was getting louder. And she said, well, take it down a notch. And I was like, oh, you're right. Got it. And there's no question I would have kept escalating if it wasn't for her calling that out and for us agreeing in advance to not ever let it get there. But I for sure fought in my younger years.
Same.
In terms of I punched a hole in a door once, way back in my early 20s when I was pissed. I bought a new door for my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, but that's one of those things, right? That's those imperfect moments. I was when I was doing a bodybuilding prep. I made an entire thing of chicken, a whole thing of chicken, a giant thing of chicken. I dropped it on the floor and I punched a giant dent in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend was like, "I'm terrified right now." And I was like, "I understand. Yeah, I understand. I can say trust me, and I can say I've never done anything and nothing's ever happened. But yeah, of course, I can understand."
Well, as men, we bottle up anger, and we don't know how to handle our emotions sometimes, and luckily some of that is shifting.
Yeah. Imperfect moments. I think that's the goal of effectively having a disagreement, is to avoid imperfect moments. It's how do we get our emotions out? How do we get our feelings out? How do we get our truths out? And then how do we meet in the middle and figure out what's the best course of action? But I remember you and I talked with a couple one time, and they said, we don't ever disagree. It's like, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
You don't ever disagree about anything? Just like, what do you want for dinner tonight? I don't want this. You just never disagree ever? About anything?
Well, that's the couple I was talking about. On the far extreme, it's all fighting. On the other extreme, it's one person is obviously sacrificing or compromising who they are to some extent, from what I understand of coaching couples. Yeah. Healthy conflict is the best bet. It's not the ship that never hits any storms that you believe in. It's the ship that has been through the most storms and come out the other side that you believe in. And that's time always tells the truth. That's what I always say. Time always tells the truth. That couple that you mentioned with the guy who was disrespectful cares more about the backpack than the wife. There's no way that can work long term unless that woman unfortunately has such low self-worth that she tolerates it for 40, 50 years or whatever it is. So,
well, we've talked about that. One of the hardest parts of growth, especially when you're in a relationship, is if the relationship was built upon one of you having low self-worth and that person starts to gain self-worth, that dynamic is going to change in some way. And oftentimes that dynamic changing means that relationship ceases to exist.
100%.
Which is a whole wonky thing. All right. Is there anything else you would add quickly before we get out of here? I wanted to make sure we did it justice, because we don't always do how-to episodes, and anytime we do a how-to episode, especially something like this, I want to make sure that we actually touch on it, because I think that's important.
Humility, courage, vulnerability. It's always one of those three from what I have studied, observed, and coached. It's always one partner usually is lacking humility, the other partner is usually lacking courage, and then that loop feeds each other. And so, or it always comes back to that. Humility, courage, or vulnerability. Which one's the low one? That's the bottleneck.
Next Level Nation, if you enjoyed today's episode and you want to make sure you never miss an opportunity to get to the next level, make sure you are subscribed on whatever platform you are watching and or listening to us on. I know not every day is the day you wake up and say, I can't wait to improve today. At least that's it for me. I force myself to do it very often. But if you get a gentle reminder from NLU that NLU dropped a latest episode, and maybe it'll be how to effectively have a disagreement, maybe you'll say, all right, cool, I'll give this 15 minutes, I'll give this 20 minutes. Oh, it's only an 18-minute episode. I can hammer that out while I do my mobility. So make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an opportunity to level up.
We just started a new book in book club called The Art of Thinking Clearly. It is usually right here. It's actually across the room, so I cannot show it on the camera. But it's Rolf Dobelli, I believe, Rolfdobelli. And it's all about the cognitive biases and how to think more rationally. Every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the link to register will be in the show notes. And it is a safe space to be yourself. It's not recorded. It's completely private. What happens in book club stays in book club. That's the only rule of book club.
Like Fight Club.
Right.
You seen Fight Club? Never seen it.
Really?
Like I kind of sort of watched it in somebody's basement one time when I was drinking. So either I saw it or I didn't see it. Don't know. All right. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay connected. Next Level Nation.